Good afternoon, fellow citizens. Welcome back to the Citizens Chat Show. My name is Masesa, Demiano, your show host for these conversations happening every Friday here on Civic Space TV. Of course, we need to thank you for always being part of our audience, our ardent followers, and sharing through the comments and keeping the conversation alive on governance issues around the country. This is where everything is, and this is where the learning is. And of course, we are happy that we receive this feedback, and we try as much as possible to inform our people and our constituencies. On today, we're discussing what has been in the media from Kosase in Parliament, so much, the Uganda Airlines crisis, the appointments and all this. And also we were finally towards the end, we'll touch a little on the Kenyan elections, the petitions that is ongoing, and we, of course, that will need to also learn and see what is happening there. Joined on the panel to discuss this and much more, I'm joined by my team of experts here to share with me thoughts here. And as usual, from my far right is retired Major Awich Pollar. Here we call him the government. And Simba is Director External Services with NRM. Afande, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, viewers.
Our regular panelist. Followed is Honourable Lyandro Komakech. He's formerly the MP of Gulu City and is with us back again.
Yeah. Thank you, viewers. I'm always on and off, but forgive me. I have a lot of other engagements, but today I'm with you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Honourable, for sparing that time. Yeah. Also, we have maiden appearance of Enap Adim. He's an advocate, he's a lawyer, but also he's been following so much closely the issues in Kenya, and we want to pick his mind on that. He also has interest in politics. Maybe he will tell us at some point. You're welcome.
Thank you so much.
Dennis. Yeah.
Good afternoon.
From the third force of UPC.
we need to know which faction, which side of UPC you fall. And finally, our regular panelist is also Dr. Bireete. She's the Executive Director with the Center for Constitutional Governance. Sarah, you're welcome.
Thank you. And good afternoon, viewers.
Yeah. Right into the conversation, we will need to start with the Uganda Airlines. Let me start with the government. It is okay. Let's start from there. We're talking about aviation, the airlines. I don't know who, probably we need to get the historic, the history of our airlines. I'm not sure whether you have that, but maybe whoever has it here, because we don't have an expert on the panel who's been so much with the airlines. But probably, yeah, Sarah will take it. But just into the conversation, maybe we'll start from there, Sarah. Just a little historic the history of our airlines until the aviation until where we are today.
No, just briefly, the Uganda Airlines was formed in 1976, and it started commercial operations in 1977. Went through the period, but also prior to that, we had the Entebbe Airport, which was commonly known as the hub of Africa, because of the ease with the latitude, the ease with the landing planes and the rest. So at independence, you had the Entebbe Airport referred to as the hub of Africa. And ideally, if we had built onto the advantages with the airport, maybe it should have been the biggest in East Africa and still should have space on the African continent. So we had Uganda Airlines running up to 2001 when it was wound up. Basically, because of mismanagement, it had no money, it could not sustain operations, and the reason was mismanagement. This mismanagement was largely abuse by the political actors, credit from government that would never pay for tickets, patronage by the people in government, and not following procedures and standards of running airlines as known globally. So in 2016, the president, through his Hakuna Mchezo declarations, said he will revamp the airline. And in 2018, the Uganda Airlines they were attempting to register Uganda Airlines. And then people found that some private people who were never told to disclose to Ugandans had registered, had taken the name. So we could not get the name as citizens of Uganda Airlines. And finally, the airline was registered as Uganda National Carrier Limited. Although we use still the flagship of Uganda Airlines, but legally we could not get back that name. And my thoughts as a citizen then were, if I'm government, who takes my name? Who takes my name, and how can I fail to recover my name as government? So then in 2019, we started the commercial operations with the fleet arriving in April 23rd, 2019, the country received the first bombardier. And we know videos of the plane that went around. 2 bombardiers arrived, and later there was an addition of 2 more bombardiers, and then the bigger passenger aircraft. So we have a fleet of 6 planes, and now we have 12 routes as an airline that we are operating on under commercial airlines. I have flown the crane 5 times. 3 times in the region and 2 outside the region. It's very beautiful, very comfortable flights, very good customer care.
Some Sanene and Katogo or something like that.
and Rolex.
And
At first I used to wonder on the languages we should use on the plane. So on my first flight to Real, I was looking forward to what language do we use, because we do not have a national language. We just have 2 official languages of English and Kiswahili. So I thought we would alternate and use both English and Kiswahili. But I think that I've only had English. And on one of the flights outside the region, I lost my luggage. So that was the not good experience I've had. And it took me a week to recover my luggage through a shabby process. Right from where I was coming from, at the airport identification place, and when you fail to find your luggage, you go to report loss of luggage. Very substandard communication procedures as compared to other standard airlines that I've flown throughout my life. So that communication until the time I recovered my luggage was extremely shabby, and I hope the airline can improve. But away from that, I think it's important to note 2 things. That flying and the standard of aircraft, the standard of pilots, and how you operate in international airspace is controlled by the international civil aviation agencies and is standardized. So our poor and shabby management skills cannot extend to the technical arm of the airline because it's controlled by international standards. But when you go to the management, the thrust that we control as a country, we have had the first board, which was disbanded in April 2021 by General Katumba Wamala for corruption, mismanagement. I think it was led by Ahabwe Perez, the former minister, state minister for local government. So that board was disbanded for corruption, mismanagement, and abuse of power. Then you go in and recruit a new board. I don't even know the standards of this board, and maybe the Honourable MP was in Parliament at the time, maybe they know, because there was a committee trying to scrutinize the re-establishment of Uganda Airlines. So I don't know the standard and qualifications of the board that we look for, because if you look at the people who were on the previous board, including the current board, it is rare to find somebody with aviation experience on this board. And you wonder how they supervise the airline. Yeah, you will come in.
Just to add
on this
clarity,
yes.
Is Uganda Airlines a company limited by shares? Is it a government agency, the way you see?
No, it's a company parastatal where the Ministry of Works and the Ministry of Finance, in their official capacities, not as individuals, hold shares in trust on behalf of Ugandans. So we have two shareholders who are Ministry of Works and the Ministry of Finance. The first registration, of course, had challenges where people had stolen shares and Ugandans were given 1%. And then Parliament had to undo. So the intentions of the political establishment over the airline might not be as straightforward as one would imagine, because it's Parliament which then ordered that the two ministries hold the shares on behalf of Ugandans. But before the arrangement, people had stolen the airline at registration. So you come into management and you have a board which you need to get rid of after 2 years for the same reasons that the airline collapsed. And then you come in after getting rid of the board, then management was also fired with the CEO and key staff also relieved of their duties over the same issues of corruption and mismanagement. Then you bring in now a new team of management, and if I'm to use the words by the Honourable Minister for Works, State for Works, said in the first board we followed CVs and missed out on integrity. Now we are emphasizing integrity. So then the question is, are you disbanding CVs and looking at integrity? But again, what integrity are you looking at? So if you go to the Auditor General's report, the issues raised there are the same for corruption, mismanagement, and unqualified staff. So you have an airline with the human resource manual, which clearly stipulates the minimum requirements for people to hold office. And then the same government goes below the minimum threshold set by themselves in the human resource manual and recruits unqualified people. And in part of this recruitment is then the famous President's Directive of 24th April 2022, a director appointing the current CEO, Jennifer Bamutureti, who doesn't meet the minimum qualifications as stated in the Uganda Airlines Human Resource Manual. And then also among the issues that have come out is, for example, the commercial director who holds an A-level certificate, and then the corruption, conflict of interest, and double standards that are captured in the Auditor General's report. So I think that this is the simple brief that I could share.
Thank you very much, Sarah. And right in there, you've given us an interesting brief. I want to bring in Afande Awich. Like Sarah said, there's been excitement. There was excitement. You see how she brought it out. But Ugandans received the airlines with open hearts. There was excitement. Those that wished to even take on the flights. There was this feel of something Ugandan that would really put our country to the map is finally here. That's what I want to ask. The airline itself, is it an integral part? We know it is an integral part of our development, but are we seeing efforts by government to see that it pays off in a way? Looking at, of course, the NDP3, of course, you
know. I hope I pick your question right. You said, is it an integral? And you saw it like you left it, does. And then you say it pays off. You ask whether it pays off. Or, well, I'll try to understand. But just to add on, before I come to that, the comment about what Sarah said is that it is true that at one point, there was basically an outcry about having a flag carrier. And everybody felt that surely a country without a flag carrier, even without the other merits and demerits, it is not good for Uganda not to have, especially a country which we see in the area the size of the economy smaller than us, like Rwanda, smaller population, and smaller geographical size. And they appear to be doing well. So everybody wished that we could bring back our flag carrier. It brings our visibility and all other things, and the economic aspects. So the cry was there. This was in the background that government, through the IMF World Bank policies, had felt that government can't do business. That ran through the IMF World Bank policies that government tried to implement. So that's why you saw government going back. That, well, even if it is that, I think there are other things that you give the exception. And that has been the same argument to national water and sewage. Some people feel even electricity should feel that it should fall in that even if you don't do business as government, you're a poor business person, there are key areas that you must do it. So the airline came in place. So that was the background on the airline. Now, there was the element where there was 90%, 99%, I think 1% the citizen. I think that was maybe how the lawyers who were drafting, executing thought it should have been. But the truth is that the other big percent was in name of Kasaija, who was also not in his personal capacity, was for the minister, as Minister of Finance.
It was captured as an individual.
I think that was a wrong drafting, but the idea was not Kasaija to take it to Binyoro. So it was Kasaija in his capacity. That was what brought the outcry, which was rectified. And in this case, not only rectified to change it in his capacity as official minister, but also to bring in two other ministers there. So that was rectified, and I think it wasn't in bad faith if it was a mistake. Now, about the issue of the board members, we do believe that when a body is formed under line ministry, say by an act of parliament, the minister is given the discretion to oversee it as a political overseer. And we believe that the appointing authority, the president, has the ability and wisdom to choose which ministers, and those are perfect political leadership in that ministry. So he appoints, is given powers, for example, to appoint the board. I think the first board, Sarah says, he didn't see anybody with aviation, but I saw some. For example, I know Mr. Gweng. I don't know whether you know Gweng. Mr. Gweng, you know Mr. Gweng, I know he has a South African wife because he married the South African woman from this tribe of Mandela. It's called what? So Kosa. Simply because he worked in Uganda Airlines for so long, and in his globe trotting, he met the South African. They stay here in Naguru, Mr. Gweng. So he was one of the aviation persons who were in that board. And I
So do you think that's the reason for his marriage? He just fell in love with that?
No, I'm saying, of course, if you stayed in the village in Karamoja, if you stayed in a village, in an isolated village in Buejo, for example, where would you be exposed to an Indian when you're in Buejo? So I'm saying somebody who was in Buejo, who has traveled along the world, can get a chance to meet a Paraguayan or a Mexican because he has moved around the world. That's what I'm saying. But rather than being in a village in Utuke, where you can't meet a Mexican. So, Mr. Gweng, and I was saying it because he's a language, I thought I would give details so that he can understand. But Mr. Gweng was on the board, and it is because he is an aviation expert. So, it is not completely true that there are no people who were not of aviation background. Now,
so one out of 7 had aviation experience.
Come again?
1 out of 7.
No, I'm just pointing one. There are others. There are others, but I wanted to be clear. That's why I went into detail of Ogweng, to show you there are many people who were in there with aviation. So, now comes in the appointment that's mentioned of the lady. Of course, there are procedural aspects to appointing an ED, governed by a manual and all that and all this. But we also know that the president is a fountain of honor. And the presumption is that he has the wisdom, he has the capacity. And should anything go wrong in the country, it is him to be blamed. So, many times he exercises that prerogative and intervene. And in this case, his intervention was, please, the way I look at it, let's have this lady for only 3 years. Then after 3 years, we shall do the normal thing, which in my opinion is good because he's exercising prerogative, he's a fountain of honor, and is believed to see everything on behalf of the 45 million because we gave him the mandate. So the mandate that we give him makes him quite often exercise that prerogative. That much as this is the position of the law, but I feel in the meantime, in the short term, we do. That's how we came up with it, and for 3 years. Now, back to your question, how all this thing fits in the equation is that it is true. It is high time that we have an airline and also competently managed. None of us would want a poorly managed airline. It is not in the interest of the ruling party. It's not in the interest of the government. So, quite frankly, if something comes up, it needs to be addressed.
Because why I asked is that, are we seeing efforts currently from government to see that this airline really pays off?
There is a lot of effort. One is that the fact that it takes a presidential intervention means that he pays attention. If he wasn't, he would have left it to the minister or anybody to do it. But he has done. That is really an a show that he takes interest. Two, the funding is purely funded by government. And as you know, the resource envelope is small. So, by the fact that government makes it a priority to fund it, to buy the airlines and to do all that, even when they appear to have been making a loss, still the idea is put in money. It might pick up, or it should pick up. So that is other avenue to know that indeed government is putting effort. So that in the long run, not only will it be an income generating to the country, but it has its other multiplier effect of a carrier. I have myself benefited from unseen visibility of a country, and I think this airline part of it. For example, if you have a sports person or you have a national team, like football team, which plays and wins in continental and global teams, global games, as a person you benefit. I was, for example, I found myself in New York for an election, a global election, where you have voters, 193 ambassadors. Ambassador of Lithuania may know very little about Uganda. But if you have a national symbol, like you went and you are a candidate from Nigeria, it's already way above you, because the Nigerian national teams is seen everywhere. A candidate from Brazil has many steps ahead of you. And this is some of the unseen things as citizens that we don't know. So, in that area alone, we stand as citizens to benefit in the visibility of our flag carrier. Of course, the area of employment, we have citizens who will be employed. We have already talked of income generation. And so much to do with it. Transport, we're already a landlocked country. Suppose we get in future where planes can't come and can't pass through Kenya, what would we do? So we don't resort to air. So a lot of commitment is in place, right from the birth, right from the rebirth, if I could say. If there was no deliberate effort, there wouldn't be a rebirth of this. And the rebirth is there, it is costly, it takes a lot of money, and it eats into the small resource envelope that we have. But we have to go on, and it will go on. The only thing now is that, which calls upon all of us, is that it is true we don't condone corruption. So let's all be with a vigilant eye to see that resources that is there meets goes to the right aspect, including how they award salaries, including how they do everything, procurement and all that. It is in all our best interest. So there we go.
Interesting there. Lyandro, I want to pick your mind from Major. He was trying to answer the aspect of whether government is doing so much to put this carrier to competition. And this is what I want to ask. Are we seeing efforts? Yeah, and currently, the carriers, it is looking at these other regions, the countries that are we are nearby, Ethiopia, Kenya, Rwanda. Are we up to the competition And by what is happening, do you think that we can really match up to the competition that is in the region?
Well, Damian, this topic of Uganda Airlines is a very discouraging topic to our national interest. I appreciate the efforts he has tried to put in. When you get back to Council Sarah, you find that the history of aviation in this country is old. If you look at even before Uganda Airlines came, there were efforts by foreigners, total foreigners, who actually were so excited to see Uganda as a protectorate and see how do we make good use of these people's, altitude, equator, as Sarah told you about the hub, and the engineers were brought from UK, those early days. They came here and found out that there were two places that would make the best for aviation in Uganda. That was Entebbe and then Port Vale. I don't know where they wanted, but those were the reports they did.
How about Nakasongola?
No, those ones came later. Yeah, so you find that the first Baganda to experience a flight to the country under the protectorate was 1947. Something was in the air. Yeah. It came to deliver mails for the Andrew Cohens and those governors in Port Vale. So it became a very strong agitation that can we have something that can start from here and go other places. So the British were the ones who were tasked to do this. And commission was in place. Eventually, they had to shift to Entebbe, and they found that that was actually Entebbe Airport is one of the best airports in the world.
Yeah.
In the world. And that is where the British said, okay, let it be here. 1952, Elizabeth, by then a princess, commissioned the airport. And the first flight was, it was called what? British Overseas Airways Corporation, BOAC, which later became British Airways, together with another airline. Is it called what? And can you imagine, in Uganda, in the 50s, we had engineers that were brought on board, plus those that were trained locally to build and assemble an aircraft in Uganda using the Israeli engineers. You see? So in the whole of Africa, Uganda started building and assembling a plane called Comet, which launched its flight from Entebbe. So we have a very big historical aviation history that actually should be speaking to the growth of this today's airline into a known, wealth of experience. The Kenya Airways Tanzanians were just this of yesterday. Uganda has been at the core. Actually, Uganda was second to South Africa. The South African Airways had to combine flights with British Overseas to fly in Uganda, and then later, that's where we picked from. And for me, you talked about where are we going with all this conversation? Look.
The competition.
The competition thing. Look, we even don't know whether it is a competition. We are just doing our thing. Now, for me, once we fail to define the conceptual challenges of aviation, and we take it for granted that as long as my 85 million enters, as long as my 40 million enters, we are there. We shall see. If it fails, we get out. Now that is where you lose the value of national interest. So for me, based on what Council has raised, Awich, and then Council Sarah, I think let's take the aviation industry as a very serious thing. Parliament tried, but I think it is all now going back to the President and the Cabinet. We have all agreed that in our issue of development plans and everything, all when you read it is just Christmas. Every day is Christmas. If you read it, You just say, we have arrived. So for me, the challenge we now have is we are misplacing manpower. Human resource constituency in Uganda is so rich that if we want to talk of the competition you have, we can deploy. Look at Ethiopian Airlines. By their management style, they said all Ethiopian engineers and whoever is in aviation, they are deployed all over the world for 10 years and above. Then they are brought back. Ethiopia is the only country in Africa that can service its plane, its fleet of planes. The only country, not even South Africa, because of that interest, the national interest of building that thing. There's a second hub which is supposed to be put in Uganda, in the north. The politics came in. You know, it was not even now Nakasongola. It's supposed to be in Amuru. The second hub, Airbus wanted to put a hub in Africa where all the Airbus planes are serviced from. The struggle over who owns this land. Can I take it as my project? Now these guys have decided to stop conversation with the government. You know, because they have insisted, the GPS is reading Amuru. Yeah? Now it is learning over some poor man's garden and what. Now people want to own that man's garden so that they can be the one to handle the Airbus industry project.
So can buy from the man.
Yeah, that is the challenge we have. So for me, competition is going to be taking a long time because we have diverted our interest into grocery politics. We just want money which can buy sugar, money which can buy salt, but not Ugandans to become competitive in the industry in Africa. It is shameful when you find a Ugandan pilot. My cousin is one of the best pilots in Africa. He flies Emirates to New York from Dubai. It's annoying, you know. And when you are there, you find so many Ugandan pilots flying foreign planes. And they fear to bring them because they're saying that they're very expensive, but they're the best. So for me, when you hear the issue of losses compared to paying those pilots who would actually be promoting our interests more than the losses we are making, then the question does not add up. Because Parliament appropriated a really good sums of money to Uganda Airlines. Uganda Airlines produced before Parliament the work plan, the design, strategic plan, everything, and it's full of roses. If you look at it, say, okay, 12, we shall be having 16 flight plans in a month. Guangzhou, London, New York, you know, regional, everything covered. What happened when it started? All this came to almost half. You find that the current CEO explained to Parliament that actually they are even going to exceed the 16 they had projected. But we have not at all done even a half of what we said. So that's why these losses are accumulating. Because for all the routes that have been planned, you must pay for them. You are not flying them. But by HATAT standards, you must pay for them. You know? So for me, for us to even first, because we have two challenges. Internally, we already have a management crisis of incompetent manpower, or human resource for that matter, of the gender word, that do not even meet the expectation of a takeoff. People are busy assembling their papers. I studied where you see, those should be demonstrated in the skills you got. We see you doing it. You should not come with history of where you studied. We want to see Sarah's counsel. You see by her outcome. You see, she's saying this and this, and she's there. She's invited. You know that, okay, I'm making some sense. I'm invited to talk about this. I know this. But now, you, the CEO, you are being smoked like a edible rat from an anthill to go and make a statement over the things you are supposed to do. It is a constitutional mandate.
Now she's on the run.
Yes. It is embarrassing that I'm even going back to school. You see, you can go, yes, but what is it that you are living here? Now, I was shocked to see the salary structure. I think that's why public service should move quickly, you know, to restructure salaries in this country. It is very demotivating for those who are working so hard to get 700,000. Then you meet with someone who gets 85 million. Then you're meeting in a supermarket called Garden City or somewhere. You feel offside. The other one is carrying 4 trolleys. You are carrying a basket of margarine and bread. But in competence and capacity, you are better off. So for me, this is very demotivating. And therefore, this challenge goes to Parliament of Uganda. The approach they are making to follow up this thing, is it going to make sense? How about the President of Uganda? He is the one who should have the greatest national interest over Uganda Airlines.
And as a fountain of honor.
Yes, you
should
stated it.
act with integrity.
Yeah, because we want good things as well as a country. Look at the tourism industry. We have even removed Kololo, where we would assemble flights to all over the country. Kololo now, they say it is a national security threat if you fly a plane from Kololo to all parts of the country. You should not fly.
It is always surrounded by members.
No, it is wrong. We need to review. We can still take charge of the security of Kampala, but leave Kololo to make money in tourism. Go to Masesa, the best airfield there. It's not working. Gulu is supposed to be one of the best airports. The longest. It's longer than Entebbe. It can land these huge warplanes with their cargoes. The best. But we are saying no. It is for training. We need to use it for Air Force for training. But the Cholis have the lowest GDP in the country, with 68% of poverty in their land. Now these are very, very serious issues, because the aviation industry, if it is well dovetailed in the whole country, everybody benefits. You know, everybody benefits. So for me, competition aside, I think we can only talk of competition when we have the competency to qualify to be in that arena. It is not like someone who says, I ran 5,000 meters. Then you come to Kampala, you say you're a champion. When you go the other side, you cannot even run. You will be tripled and many times because you have no capacity. So competition should be reserved for now. We are not competing with anybody. We cannot take off. How do we have capacity for takeoff is what should actually be in our thinking.
Yeah, interesting there. I want to, Denis, we are seeing this conversation happening, but the airline had, like Honourable said, the plans that the airlines tabled to open up new routes in Guangzhou, China, Heathrow, at the current status and at the current state of affairs, where does it leave this business?
Thank you, Demian. 3 things. 1, intention. 2, motive. 3, trick. What was the intention of revamping the Uganda Airlines by the current government? If anything, by the political players. 2, what was the motive? Intention, yes, they will tell us access, transport routes, profit, or doing business, then employment, name it. But then, what is the motive? Now, the motive and the trick is what is coming into the fore. That whereas the intention is pure, is positive, the motive and the trick behind bringing back the Uganda Airlines is inconsistent with the objectives. Going back to, I was whispering to, I would call her my elder sister, and there are places we've met that she may not remember. The name, starting with the name of the
Is she in the UPC?
No, in
Council meetings?
no, she's supposed to be my prospective auntie-in-law. So you'll find that, yes, Uganda Airlines, the name, had been purportedly preserved by some other entity. Then the question would be, the first airline we had, Uganda Airlines, was it a company limited by shares? Okay. The current Uganda Airlines, do we have a law under which it's created?
Anchored under.
The creation, the excuse or scapegoating that at the time of incorporation, the name Uganda Airlines had been taken up is what now brings up the motive and trick, so that they push you to the point of incorporating a different name so that you don't qualify to come under a law. Because under a law, it is easy to streamline, manage most of the affairs of an entity. Look at UCC, look at URA, look at all these government agencies. Where does Uganda Airlines fall? So the trick and the motive is coming into play from the parliament. Generally, airline business, because I'm trying to specialize in aviation law, but airline business generally is not a profit making in the short run. And even when an airline will incur losses, even with the best efficient management systems. But then look at Uganda's situation where the management is corrupt, inefficient, has a lot of political interference. You want it or not, you'll not even break even after 20-25 years, right? So it means we need one to streamline right from incorporation or from creation up to the management. 3, this narrative by some people sitting in IMF or World Bank that government cannot do business. When you look at the government agencies that we had in the early 60s, for instance, the Coffee Marketing Board, these were government agencies. They were helping farmers with incentives of growing and then producing and marketing coffee. Yes, they were slightly mismanaged, but the Coffee Marketing Board, or through the Coffee Marketing Board, Uganda was drawing a lot of foreign exchange income from the exports that Uganda was making. And the other example I'll give is the Uganda Commercial Bank. When Professor Ezra Suruma became the managing director of UCB, I think around 93, 94, he found a UCB that was dilapidated, broken, with over 300 branches across the country. But when he came in as a manager, as a managing director, he was able to streamline and create an efficient Uganda Commercial Bank that eventually some people sold I think at about 19.5 million US dollars, which money was generated by the people who bought UCB within 1 year. So it means that government, 1, can do business. 2, government can efficiently run its agencies. Suruma has shown us. Suruma is a Ugandan, right? Now, linking it to the Uganda Airlines, we can create a successful, profitable airline business in the long run when we accept to play to the rules by alienating the trick and the motive around it. Otherwise, with what we have, you like it or not, we're just going to first have about 2-3 crashes for us to understand that airline is being mismanaged. My only challenge also that as a country we have chosen to mismanage, and I may respectfully disagree with maybe Parliament. We've talked about the airline being one of the branding tools. In it being one of the branding tools, do we take our fight to the public? I disagree with how, if there is a procedure of assenting to those positions, I disagree with anybody who short circuits. But again, do we pull that and throw it to the public? I mean, those are some of the things that maybe we could have managed
Under the table.
under the table.
But council, how do you promote transparency and accountability to Ugandans amid this opaqueness?
Let me ask, I will call him my father. I'll call him my father because I know him personally. I don't want to say, okay, Major is married. I studied with one of his sons at law school. I want to think, Major, for the years we've been married, you've had issues with
My
your wife.
son and my hobby.
Yes, his son and Obi, same school, Tare school, right?
Very integrated relationship.
And Makero, yeah. My son, my hobby of Untare 6 years, and my alumni in Makere Law School.
Yes, so Major has been married for all these years to one woman that I know of. I believe, Major, you've had challenges in your marriage, but your challenges have not come out to the fore. They have been somewhat resolved. There has been a system of resolving it so as to protect the image of that marriage institution. The same way, when we are trying to fix institutions that affect us directly, especially when they have an image that we have to use to cast out, we should find a solid or airtight structure that helps us to resolve whatever differences. I mean, I don't want to think issues of the military are discussed on the streets. Not even the USA.
Councillor, if I may ask
for questions,
a
at this
quick
point.
question. Did you see the picture of President Museveni on Al Jazeera when he carried a sack of money to Busoga?
Yes, I saw. I was in Busoga at that time.
Do you think it was good for Uganda?
No.
What is, I think we need to distinguish between two things. As a country, do we respect laws, systems, and institutions? And if we fail to do what is expected of us, why do you want to blame the messenger? The image of Uganda is not just about Uganda Airlines. In Kenya, people were laughing at us whenever we mentioned Uganda. Said, but you, Uganda, you have nothing to talk about elections. You're a dictatorship. Isn't that the image of Uganda?
But you see, also when you want a transparency, or when you want us the public to have these conversations closed door, it needs to start from the top. If a kind of appointment itself, there was a transparent system where they even had to hire, a team to look for a CEO, a caretaker. Then there was that override. Now the override does a backfire, which backfire. This is an international. This sector is international. It sends us across these other countries. But now you see what comes out, and you want us as a country to keep quiet on this, conceal this.
No, it's not concealing. There is a committee in Parliament, COSASE.
Yes.
It decides to investigate the operations management of Uganda Airlines.
Of all parastatals.
Fine, whatever. But, of course, as lawyers, there are cases you will handle even in a firm to the exclusion of the rest of the members.
Even the court.
What cases do courts handle in camera?
Right?
No, what cases do courts handle in camera?
They are children cases, children-related cases.
Yes.
Those which go
Because
for
they
privacy.
Yes.
Only children.
It depends. If court is moved to draw a conclusion that this, when it comes out, it will injure a particular constituency, or it is court will hold on to. I have a case I'm handling. I was in court yesterday, where I have one of the fraudulent adoption cases in which some of our judicial officers participated to take out lots of children. I had a BBC, I had Al Jazeera, I had a Voice of Africa at court. The judge requested us to hold that session.
Because judicial officers were involved?
No. The issues that were raising, the judge wasn't comfortable with them coming out because then they would have an effect on the process. Same thing, we have a committee in Parliament. It chooses to investigate. It should think, what's the effect of us? I mean, by the time they are summoning you to that committee, they know the problems you're facing. They are simply calling you to put you right. They don't call you out of ignorance. They normally sanction or summon members to that committee so as to interrogate them about some inefficiencies. Now, it is those that when you appreciate that will have a negative effect on the brand Uganda Airlines, you request to hold it in private.
I think,
but that doesn't stop.
You should guide us on the rules of procedure, because in my view, only a matter that can put the security, and this is a practice in Commonwealth countries, the security of a nation at stake is what qualifies to go under camera in parliamentary sessions. Because my land friend seems to be arguing that if I ever walk naked, then I should blame people for not covering my buttocks. What are the rules?
No, I think it's
Just
clear.
okay for guidance, yes.
Yeah, I think the issue is, in all the rules in Parliament, unless the Speaker or Deputy Speaker guides that due to the sensitivity of this matter, we may need to have it under what?
And normally it's for security reasons.
Yes.
Of
So
the
they always even write to the
Yeah.
chair. And the team from Uganda Airlines knew they were going for the for obvious open because they were responding. Actually, Parliament was just following up what the Auditor General had already done.
Auditor reports are public documents.
So, and this document is open
It's public, it's on the website.
So the only thing that they
Anybody
should have
can
prepared
read.
to do
What are you covering?
was just to appear smart people with all their papers in place. Yeah, because like to be a CEO of Uganda Airlines, it's very serious, prestigious even.
You should be
Yeah, you
organized.
should really be on top of things. Now, for me, the challenge is the clumsiness, which now draws the attention of council. You see, council is feeling
It's
because his
feeling
value
guilty
system is different.
For somebody who walked naked.
There are things which go
Patriotic.
he's looking at the impacts of how we have embarrassed ourselves internationally while attempting to even market Uganda Airlines. Now, do you know that some of I hope some of you checked on WhatsApp, some passengers coming from Europe.
No, people are cancelling flights, including Ugandans. Are
Beginning
cancelling flights.
they're talking to themselves, they're in the Entebbe airport, and saying Uganda Airlines is the worst airline. I mean, they started with Entebbe as the worst international airport. Then I said, where is this
It's
coming
shambles,
from?
it's
So mine was about now, who are these? I was thinking about it that way. So when they enter the airline, they again start enjoying the what?
The flight.
The flight to Dubai. It was a very nice flight. Then I failed to understand, but that alone sends dangerous signals to Uganda Airlines. That on top of losses, we have created more losses by how we behave. We are all walking naked and in the daylight, and we don't care. No? He's caring that really you messed up yourself. Why don't you? His biggest feeling
his
is.
problem is I have walked naked, and he's blaming people. Why are you?
Excuse me.
I understand his context.
Yes, it's okay. It's time for you could share.
His context is that we have overshamed ourselves.
Of
Can
course,
we,
we have
in the meantime,
embarrassed ourselves.
cover
Can we
it as we try to sort out?
Yes, Afandi, go on.
You see, sometimes my NRM cadetship discipline inhabits me in many ways. I don't always interfere when somebody is making a submission. So even if I have a point, I tend to swallow it and unlike my land sister who
No, this is an
feels quite
interactive
often
phase.
coming.
It's interactive.
Because, yeah, no. Now, I think his point is not that the CEO's buttocks is empty and therefore feels covered. Rather than him is saying the buttocks of Uganda
Is open.
Who opened them?
So you seem to think that is protecting the personality of the CEO. For him, it's saying is protecting the personality of Uganda. And I don't think it is just unfortunate that as lawyers we are gambling what is the position in these rules. We are saying you said it is only for security. We needed to look at it, but I think it is wider and bigger
That's the
than
Commonwealth
security.
practice.
So you could be mentioning just one of them, security, but there are other grounds, and this is sufficient ground to have warranted a hearing in camera. So because as you know, a good lawyer is not the one who crams it, but knows where to get it. And I'm sure if you open, I don't think this provision just says only for security. No, it has other grounds, and this fits in. So, in other words, I agree with the council that
that's an assumption.
I agree with council that even if it was mentioned security and there was some provision like any other, this should have been, because the excitement that came out from the COSASIS procedure It's like they had found a ground to embarrass the government, not even the CEO. And already, if they thought that school of thinking was wrong, the effect you see is being felt. So, is this the desired goal? Did they really want to say we want a competent CEO, or actually they were saying let us frustrate this airline? It appears that is the case, and that is what has happened now. So now this calls therefore personal interest and national interest. I agree with it. It is what in the courts of law we know a lot of things, privacy that affects somebody, and other things. Court will go in camera because many things happen. Like you cited in my case, I've been with my wife for as long as I can remember. And as you cited, my son, my hobby of Ntare, Makere, LDC, all the institutions where he has followed me and we have gone through it. But not everything is that sweet or all right or perfect. I have gone through it, but Mandela says don't claim moral superiority above others. And so I could also be a sinner like any other, but I've gone through it with challenges. So we don't come it out. So similar at the national level. This situation qualifies to have called in for a national interest, at the same time addressing the issue at hand. We are not saying the issue should not have been addressed. I really...
So maybe to say is that the CEO is simply a symptom and not a cause.
Yeah, and by the way, I've said it. Can I answer that? I have said it again, even to my other colleagues. I was in NBS with Mayor Lukwago. They have of late developed a tendency that even when they are addressing people on NBC, you look at his face, he's blank, he's actually addressing imaginary audience, the foreigners. In his mind is either the ambassador of USA is hearing me, the ambassador of Denmark is hearing me, or on internet they are hearing me. And partly because they have learned over time that the people of Uganda actually will not buy that kind of argument. So it is rather a trickery to deal with the outsiders. Look at it. You really see a person addressing an imaginary audience. And this costs the country, because if this country is on fire, all of us are on fire. So we can look for a solution without this.
Yes.
I want really to raise two points. One, for the record, the most incidences where court handles cases in camera are cases involving minors and cases of sexual violence victims to protect them and their dignity. Those are the common cases. We have the International Crimes Division, which handles cases that would have elements of security nature. But it has not stopped journalists from covering the cases, because some of the evidence could have implications on the security of the country. These are international crimes or war crimes. But it allows media. Parliament has processes and procedures of conducting work. The issues before COSASE. First of all, for the record, majority members of COSASE are NRM MPs. The chair is only, because it's an accountability committee, the chair goes to opposition. So when you say that this is an intention to embarrass, are you saying NRM MPs? Now, if I may first conclude, then I take information. Are you saying that NRM MPs, and this is what Awich was saying, are against their own government? Two, if Parliament has principles of doing work, they are reviewing an audit report. The process of audit, the Auditor General, before putting his comments, brought these comments to the attention of both ministries that are in charge of the airline. And mainly the Ministry of Works, which is a major custodian, because finance comes in on the aspect of financing. An auditor discusses with you qualified and unqualified questions. You give your response, which are captured in a management section. That is the audit process. So the Auditor General, who is an employee of government, went through standard procedures with the people supervising the airline, and they knew the issues. beforehand.
So are you saying what the auditor said is equal to what Parliament did?
No, I'm coming.
There are so many other issues that Parliament
I am
came up
coming.
with. That is
So
embarrassing.
Parliament is reviewing audit queries.
Yes.
Among the audit queries is a qualification of staff. We are saying Uganda has been embarrassed as a country. Who embarrassed Uganda? The Ministry of Works started a recruitment process, hired KPMG, paid 98 million for KPMG to recruit a standard CEO for the country who bungled the process. You have the fountain of honor bungling up a public recruitment process. Now when it is up for discussion, you say you are embarrassing Uganda, you embarrassed Uganda.
Interesting. Yes.
I think, sir, two wrongs don't make a right. I liked your submissions when you opened up about Uganda Airlines, how it's good you've done about 5 trips, 2 out of the region, and how whenever you land, wherever you go, the feeling of getting off your national carrier elects your confidence, and right, and then at the other stage you juxtapose it with good as it is, let me get mad and throw at it.
Am I the one getting mad?
No. When the president interferes, misleads, or does something outside the law, it's a wrong, I agree. This committee is supposed to look into some of the reports from other government agencies so as to put those agencies to accountability. We lose nothing when we try to assess case by case situation of, yes, we have all the power to summon all these people to appear, and then we examine them vis-a-vis the reports we've gotten from another agency. But for the good of Uganda, is it okay for me to fault the leadership of this agency, which is largely, its name, the Uganda Airlines is not about profit making or even making Ugandans travel. When you look at the statistics of people who travel in and out of the country, Uganda Airlines does not even have 10% of that number.
And so, it's going to reduce now?
Yes, now it's going to reduce because we've accepted to bash it. I agree, whatever has been done is wrong. Can we? And then, I've been a student of President Museveni. I disagree with him fundamentally. But I've taken time to want to understand him, how he works. When you come in as a committee and rubbish whatever he has done and try to water him down, he's a chest thumper. He will remain adamant. I can assure you that lady will not leave that office until President Museveni feels it's right and it satisfies his ego. Whatever is happening, it's about him. Now, knowing that that's the character, personality.
Yes. At the advisory role, I thought the board should be there to guide the president on some of these recruitment. Are they also effective?
Unfortunately, Uganda Airlines is just an epitome of the failures in this country. It's just coming out. We should agree about that.
So that shows that the airlines is a business of a few individuals, not for the country. If that's how it goes.
That's the other thing I asked. Intention, trick, motive. The intentions were clear, but the motive and trick are being seen. But that aside, do I want my name to be bashed on the front? No. Is there anything I can do to kill the snake, but without breaking the pot? To me, that's where my interest is. And also,
okay, maybe then that's when you would say that maybe Ugandans are awake to that and are like, okay, let's break this whole notion that it's a business of a few people. And once that is phased out, then we try to reclaim it.
No, you see, there is tomorrow.
A picture for
there is
the country.
Tomorrow, and I normally disagree with people who attack the presidency, attack particular institutions in and out of the country, because it is Uganda you're destroying. Bush went to Iraq outside the law, right? Have you had an American bashing Bush? Trump, okay. Look at how the structure is protecting the presidency, not the person of Trump. Can we grow up and reach a point that even when I disagree with him being in NRM, tomorrow I'm chasing that particular office he's holding? Should I go into it when it's damaged or when there is nothing at all? You like it or not, the NRM will leave power, another party will be in place. Going back to the committee, I have had 2 instances where, and this is why I'll still go back to my formula of intention, trick, and motive. That committee, not this particular one that is in place, some people previously, in the last parliament, people sit down and say, okay, which issue seemingly sensitive and we can draw money out of, right? They look out for a matter that is sensitive, then they summon you to the committee to avoid you going through that entire embarrassment. These guys will come behind and say, what are you going to Kube? Who said one of my clients had to give people money on that committee.
In this parliament?
No. The last parliament. Yes.
Which committee was that?
Same committee.
Kosase?
Yes.
Last parliament.
The last parliament, yes. So it's
among the leaders is the now current speaker.
I don't want to say anything. I don't want to.
No, but that's what it is.
Yes. So, what are the intentions? What are the tricks? What are the motives of some of these? Can we clean our house without necessarily having to burn the entire house? The monkeys burning the forest is what we are into here, as Ugandans in that committee.
But then maybe this too is to Sarah. Of course, we didn't critically touch on it. Where does it leave the plans of the industry, the airlines, where it was trying to penetrate these other markets globally? But also, was it really viable for business for us to really pay cash to these flights? Wasn't there any other way where we could probably have these flights that would not be of really cost to the country?
For the record, I stand for transparency and accountability. And I don't think you can create some elements of opaqueness and still speak of accountability without an element of transparency. Whereas I get the feeling that, and I agree that the image of Uganda Airlines is affected by the investigation, but I do not believe in covering up the dirt in the name of patriotism. Accountability has its standards, and once you start bending them, you've lost it. So I request the leadership of this country to be mindful of the image of Uganda before they take mediocre decisions. But you cannot blame the media or whoever for the mediocre decisions taken at the highest level of leadership in this country. We should care about the image of Uganda with all the decisions we take, making sure they fall in the line of the law, rule of law. Once you bend the law, then don't tell us about image. You are the one who has bungled it. That aside, airlines, international aviation is internationally regulated. The business ticket is through IATA. You have the aviation industry controlled worldwide. I hear the British aviation industry has expressed concerns about our Civil Aviation Authority here and the areas they think need improvement. So you have these 2 elements regulated. The question we can ask is, are we sure about the revenue through Uganda Airlines going through the normal channels, including the consolidated fund, or these people who are employed under the table in the middle of the night, in the thick of the night, are then sniffing money and not handing it over through the proper revenues? Because once, a product is as good as a process. Once you have a shoddy process, then you can never be sure of a product. So that is the question you're asking, and which has created doubt in the minds of everybody. Many people might say, whereas I thought I was making a contribution to my country by not saying, and we are not saying other airlines in Uganda should close. We should have a variety of choices as a traveler. If I want to fly the Emirates, I should fly the Emirates. If I want to fly British Airways, I should fly British Airways. But if I feel I should fly Uganda Airlines, then I should also have freedom to make that choice. Many people have been flying airlines, trying to make a contribution to our national carrier. but not that they don't have choices. So now the question that will be is that, am I making a contribution for the nation or for an individual and group of people who are doing shoddy and mediocre work? Those questions will arise without a doubt.
You've been silent in this segment.
No, I've been listening.
Interesting, because then I need us to just have a short break and get into the other segment, given the time we have. And from here, we'll need to come back to the conversation on a little bit on the airlines. What can we do better as a country, but then as well get to the conversation on Kenya in the shortest time. I want to encourage our viewers to keep on to the conversation. Share with us your thoughts, your what you think we should do. It's a conversation that helps the country. This civic space is here to help us learn, help us be informed, and try to make informative decisions and choices for the good of our country. It's a discussion from here. We'll return after the break. Thank you very much.
The Citizens Chat Room happens every Friday at 2 p.m. on Civic Space TV Online on Facebook and YouTube. We invite you to be part of this conversation. Civic Space TV, freedom always.
Welcome back from that short break. We're still having a conversation on the crisis at our Ugandan Airlines and probably what we can do better. But also importantly, we'll have a discussion on the Kenya petitions. Joining on the panel is a retired Major Awich Pollar, Honourable Lyandro, Komakech, Council Enap, Adim, and Dr. Bireete, who are helping us understand the situation around this crisis. And to get into the conversation, we're still having a brainstorm on probably what we call probably morality on the whole issue of the image of our country. And in there, that's why my question would, and it still is, how far are we in ensuring, wouldn't we have done better in probably having these carriers? Probably we get a lease, out of these, maybe would have been the best way. So because the question is that we're incurring a lot of losses as a country, and which losses probably is the government going to pay, and which money is not internally generated but borrowed. So we still have a debt, and we are adding on some of these pressures on the country. So Sarah, that's why I wanted you to come in. Couldn't we have had a better way
to lease than buying?
Yeah, a better way of accessing, because we paid cash.
Most countries which run airlines lease aircraft. You lease an aircraft for the preferred period is 5 years in order to avoid the higher maintenance costs as the aircraft wears and tears out. So most countries lease aircrafts 5 years, they return them, pick new ones, because a newer aircraft has less maintenance costs than an aging aircraft. Already one of our aircraft has been grounded out of the 6. And even during COVID, the 6 months that the travel industry was temporarily suspended, every day, every hour, you have to maintain an aircraft, whether you are flying it or not. And as I saw, the outgoing CEO of Uganda Airlines was saying that we are still not fully utilizing our aircrafts by flying 33 hours a week. He thought we could do better. If you just look at the most busiest routes in the region, which is Entebbe, Nairobi, Kenya Airways used to do 4 flights per day on Entebbe, Nairobi. And that would give people flexibility because they travel early morning, mid-morning. So you have a 5:30 flight a.m. You have a 10 a.m. flight. There's an afternoon flight at around about 5. and there is a flight in the evening at 8 or 9.
Peak hour.
And whenever they go to Nairobi, there is also a corresponding return flight. So that would give the business community flexibility. For example, schedule a meeting in Nairobi, fly in and fly out on the same day. Uganda Airlines does 1 flight or 2, at most 2 per day in Nairobi. But you have this traffic, which you have left to the competition. Why don't you negotiate to increase journeys on busy routes like Entebbe, Nairobi, and where you have leverage as a national carrier? So I think we need to look into how do we increase revenue for Uganda Airlines. The issue that some people just all they want to see is a bird in the air saying fly the crane, whether you are making losses or not, is really mediocre and has no place in modern society operations. If you invest money in something, it should be productive. Government should be productive. If you are planning a parish development model, you should make sure that you are not operating to make losses. You are empowering the citizens. Are you empowering them? Is there value for money? Are there returns? Because that's the mentality that we carried in programs like Bonaba Gagawarira, which were basically handouts of giving people money, and free money has never enriched any country. So if we carry this mentality, mediocre mentality, into operating an international airline, definitely the results will be as obvious as the former Uganda Airlines.
Thank you very much, Sarah. And at this point, we would want to end it at trying to give our way forward on how best probably we can do to what Uganda or the government and generally the whole country can do to ensure that at least our industry doesn't collapse, like we would want to say, and probably try to deal with issues of mismanagement. I would want to start with Denis, then we proceed.
Uganda Airlines, very simple things. One, change the leadership around it, streamline its entire management structure and how it's run. Draw Uganda Airlines from where it is to the Uganda Airlines of 1976 under the Act. Whoever reserved the name Uganda Airlines, right? We look for them, compensate them. I mean, when government wants to buy land and to use it for particular purposes and you're the owner, it will come and negotiate with you and you get off it and in exchange for some money. So same thing, bring Uganda Airlines back to the Act as an agency of government, allow it to run independently or with minimal political interference. Don't expect profit income in the shortest run. It's going to make losses for another 10 to 15 years. It's okay, but the management should be efficient with particular goals, as my sister has shared, of increasing capacity of movement and travels. Sure.
Interesting. Afande? I mean, Honourable.
Yes.
Lyandro, yeah.
Mine, moving forward, we need to, beyond this audit query that Parliament is responding to, I think we need to interest ourselves to create a momentum of ensuring that government of Uganda, with the entire cabinet and the president, debate this in cabinet and review how Uganda Airlines was registered. Let's start with registration, as you said. Whoever holds this title, we need to know who holds this title, because that was registered.
And
you know,
it's under the Act.
yes, it's under the Act. So we would need to see that person, because they may be playing as blackmail so that they are paid. Because when they heard that Uganda, they are revamping the airlines, they rush to do it so that when they come and say, okay, you can pay me some money. So this is blackmail. We need the government to come clear to this, and we need to know who did this. It is treason.
Sure.
This is treason. And then two, we need a deep human resource audit of the entire civil aviation and Uganda Airlines. It looks like civil aviation also has a bigger problem. You know, planes are skidding off, then you are told that, you know, they're blaming all of them. So even the routes, the airfield is not safe. They said that they don't review the standards of maintenance. you skid off. And then, of course, the airline. I think the appraisal should be done. I don't know who should do it, either international aviation, what? Because if we leave it ourselves here, we also just finished. You know, because we need to sell this airline internationally. And it's not a joke. For us, we started flying of recent. People fly. Me, I started just by sitting on a plane without flying in Gulu. When Uganda Airlines flew to Gulu, before Boto was overthrown, we were taken as students to just go and sit in it.
Yeah.
We sat in the whole thing, and then we were told that in future, if you work hard, you will fly. That was good for me. You know? So for me, we need to revamp tourism. But revamping tourism must go alongside many things. The infrastructure of tourism, I think the airline is at its best. All the airports or airfields in Uganda, aerodromes, whatever you call them, should all be revamped under civil aviation. I'm even applying for one for my place for tourism. I need an airfield. I have 10 square kilometers of land. I'm only 30 kilometers away from the national park. I need an airfield.
Interesting.
Who knows? I may start flying in the future. My small things. So the government of Uganda should not take this as a joke. As he said, the cat is now out of the bag. You know, the Pandora box has been opened. We cannot do anything. Let us deal with it.
Yes, let's deal with it.
Let's deal with it. The thieves are in the open. Even cockroaches, when you put lights on them, they flee. Let them run. And for goodness sake, for those who would want to volunteer to run Uganda Airlines, they should run it in our national interest. We are making a cry here, not because we want to put pockets of money in for ourselves. No. Uganda Airlines is an aspiration for all. I feel bad when I look at that motto. You know, satisfaction beyond, you know, excellence, all those good things. But now come on what we do.
Yeah, thank you very much.
You know, so this is a do or die. We must sort out this mess, and quickly. Should not be a further debate. In China, lastly, if you are found to have taken money of the Chinese government, this one you talk about, the minimum as a civil servant is firing squad, and the date of firing squad are all clear. It is quarterly every year. The Chinese are short quarterly, those who steal money. And some of our Ugandan people, IGG team, they went there to Beijing to witness firing squads.
To benchmark.
They shot 10 corrupt officials, dead and buried. Actually, some of their bodies are just taken for medical practices.
Thank you very much.
So we need to go very hard with corruption.
Thank you very much, Honourable. I want to bring on Afande, because our time is fast spent. So,
way forward is that we must remain as a country, and we must promote the airline, and we must do it in a correct way, with zero tolerance to corruption and strict adherence to rules. Government will continue to do its part, like giving money and giving, of course, other things like advice from Parliament and legislation. And I think on the parts of the citizenry, I call upon our colleagues that, as my young son said, is that we really should put the interest of the country above, so that when we solve the problem, we protect the country. Sarah disagrees though, and she uses very strong words. I don't know whether not today. It seems today she drank some water somewhere. She's using words like mediocre. In fact, right from her entering into our exceptional situations where money cannot get a man of that, she has been so strong in her words. So I think she drank some water somewhere. So
I call a spade a spade.
I think
not a big spoon.
We must, because when this country gets banned, we are all inside. And if it is in the interest of somebody to for economic sabotage as the president takes it, then the state will take it as such, and the state will have remedies. So I don't think we should reach that far, where the state takes measures to do that. We should really do it as a country.
Thank you very much. And getting on to Kenya elections, I probably want to start with you again. Of course, the veteran opposition leader, Raila Odinga, on Monday challenged Kenya's presidential election results in the Supreme Court and alleged the tally had involved criminality, sharpening a political contest, gripping East Africa's powerhouse. In the petition, Odinga asked the court to nullify the vote's outcome on several grounds, including a mismatch between the turnout figures and the results, and alleges the electoral election mission failed to tally ballots from 27 constituencies, rendering the results unverifiable and unaccountable. So it's from here that I would want to ask, shall we see another probably precedence of Kenya Supreme Court nullifying these presidential elections?
Really, I will leave that to my colleagues. I believe they're competent enough. Sarah has been there. My young son has been following. Honourable is very conversant with the region. I'm sorry to say that I have a Zoom meeting where Dr. Tangodoi and Council Kihika is waiting for me online to talk to our NRM in London. And I'm the center of that Zoom discussion. That's why you saw me sending linkages here. Because I forgot I would have sent the link earlier. So I will not comment much about Kenya, but the Kenyan judiciary is independent. I think they have demonstrated it before. I believe they will act within their due diligence and competence. And I pray all goes well for the Kenyans. For the details, my colleagues will say it.
Yes,
Would you be comfortable with Uganda replicating the Kenyan system, the judiciary?
I think we do it, and we are ahead of them.
So
I will excuse myself so that I get
as you go, it's just on a side note that, of course, we received the sad news of the death of the General Elo Tumwine. I would just want you to address yourself
wish I had started with that.
On that, yes.
You see, General Tumwine presents a very interesting case, as I put it somewhere. The General Tumwine presents the case of the hen and the egg. Which one came first? Is it the egg? Is it the hen? In other words, is it NRA, the military wing, which came first, or NRM, the political wing? So it is debatable. Some combatants feel, no, we started it, the politicians. Political came earlier. Political will say, no, it is the thought which made people to go and fight. So to me, it presents a very good case of NRM. It illustrates the case of the Hague and the N. He has done his part in Uganda. He has his challenges. Some people may say this and that, but he has done his part. I think all of us are bound to do our part. I'm a beneficiary of Elo Tumwine because when he was army commander, he's the one who decided that child soldiers should be taken back to school. So I went to school as a Kadogo under his command. Possibly if it wasn't because of his leadership or his command, I wouldn't have gone back to school as a Kadogo and I wouldn't maybe not be in this room. So he has done his part. We are really so sad as an army and as a movement because, as I said, it presents a case of the egg or the hen. Which one came first? So we are so sad, but I'm glad that he has left us standing. Those of us who were under him, we are strong, we are educated, we believe we can interface with Sarah with almost more police doctorum than Sarah. So we are beneficiary of Elo Tumwine.
Thank you very much, Afande. And of course, that's sad. It's a loss to the UPDF.
You mean to say Sarah is a bully, or is that what you meant?
I don't understand. He's bullying me.
Let's look at
And of course, we from Civic Space our condolences to the UPDF and of course the NRM where he proudly associated so much. Thank you very much. And in that conversation where we ended, of course, with the sending off a fund who has just stepped off for another meeting. Sarah, that's why we're trying to pick our thoughts here as people have been following these elections and until now the petitions that are ongoing, the process has started on Monday. We want to have our people and our audience try to understand the process. Do you think probably the High Court, the Supreme Court, will do another magic and nullify the presidential election. And what does that tell? And probably shall we see any instances of violence after that, or?
No, I think the Supreme Court should do the right thing. The right thing does not necessarily mean nullifying an election. Can they do a proper audit of the election and then protect the will of the Kenyans? So that's what I expect from court. And the Kenyans have confidence in the leadership of the judiciary and her Lordship Justice Komi and her team. But I think beyond that, I will briefly also commend. I did earlier mention that a product is as good as a process. You cannot claim to have a good process and then say the product was burnt. If the product was burnt, then that means the process caused too much heat that led to the burning of the product. So in democratic processes, we should make sure that there are enough checks and balances in the system to protect the integrity of the process and produce the intended product. Kenya produced a seemingly transparent process in the pre-election and election time. The verification of the results produced some turbulence, especially the last 3 days towards the announcement of results, which really shocked most people, including locking out of observers, locking out one-party agents. Because if you said there is a security concern, why would the security concern at Bomas only cause the locking out of Azimio principles? Why wouldn't we even see Kenya Kwanza principles also being affected by the security concern if there was objectivity? So that was questionable. And then, of course, that led to when the chaos broke out and things got out of hand with the commissioners, the majority commissioners dissenting. Yet ideally, you need to take a decision with the majority commissioners on your side. So now we have a minority decision of the commission going into Supreme Court. The Kenyan Supreme Court decision of 2017 set two principles that are different from Uganda's presidential elections. Whereas in Uganda, if you go to court, the burden is on the petitioner to prove that the irregularities in the election had a substantial effect on the result. In Kenya, the petitioner has a prima facie obligation to prove that there were irregularities. Those were not followed. That is the burden of a petitioner in Kenya. Once the petitioner proves that laws were not followed, the burden of proof then shifts to the commission, where now the Supreme Court does an inquiry. Did you conduct yourself in accordance with the laws, the electoral laws? And if not, then is the result conclusive of the will of the people? And that's how the last election was overturned. So if these issues are proven beyond reasonable doubt, and where the burden of proof is to the commissioner, not the petitioner, then maybe your question will be the result. But I pray that the result will be the true will of the Kenyan people through the electoral process.
Yeah, interesting. And your thoughts on that, Denis?
Kenya has a very robust judiciary. It is very firm. When you look at or read through some of their judgments or decisions, right from the High Court to the Supreme Court, you find that Kenya's jurisprudence has grown way ahead of most of the countries in the East African region. Raila Odinga, Martha Karua petitioning against the ABC and all the commissioners together with Ruto also creates another legal challenge. I remember, I think I was interacting with you, that this petition, this election petition, is going to give the Kenyan legal fraternity a test, because like Council has said you have commissioners on either side. As we speak, 6 of the commissioners are going to depone affidavits qualifying the petition.
6.
6.
As Chebukati remained alone.
Chebukati is alone. At the time of announcement, it's only Chebukati and another commissioner who had signed. There's one who didn't sign that was in hospital. So even this one who had signed together with Wafula has distanced themselves from the election result. So and in legal practice, it's one of the things we do that if for instance, if I have a client who has a land dispute, especially in the registration process onto the certificate of title, deliberately I will include the commissioner for land registration. Because normally, if you have commissioner for land registration, for them they'll want to state the case as straight as it's supposed to be. Now you find that the defense of the commissioner for land registration pokes holes into the defense of the co-defendant. And me as a plaintiff, my case is made easier. Now you have an election petition where the respondents, the 6 respondents, are going to depone affidavits qualifying the petition.
Should the court even spend the time hearing it?
Right? And now the petition is around, hinges on about 4 major grounds. One, violation of the electoral process, where at some point, especially for the 27 constituency results, being declared not verifiable by the commission. When you look at the total of the votes that come out of the 27 constituencies, they are very substantial to affect the outcome of the election. So if you have the 6 commissioners poking holes in the entire process, I mean 4 of them, okay. The decision of the commission is by a simple majority or consensus. You have 2 giving decision, declaring results, and you have 4. So then the question is, which of the 2 was the decision of the commission? You take that the 4, being the majority, gave the true decision of the commission. These 2 dissented in as much as the illegality arose from the 2, right? And if anything, Chebukati had to do this because he had to exhaust the process to give the election petition basis to be filed. Otherwise, without the declaration, we'll still be having a stalemate, because you can't petition when there's no declaration, there is no gazetting. So then...
But if he had failed to announce, that would be treasonable.
Yes, actually, Chebukati was very... You'd somewhat say he was patriotic. He said, okay, let me throw it back to the people through the court system, because he had failed. At some point, the last 2 days, you could see even body language. He was worn out, he was tired. It was too thick. But to go back to the merits, 4 commissioners against the 6 commissioners against the 2.
The chair.
The chair. How do you defend that one? Then IBC is being represented by the Attorney General.
IBC filed a response yesterday.
Yes.
So which IBC filed?
IBC.
As the CEO.
Yes.
They used the affidavit of because IBC has a CEO who runs the administration.
Yes.
So it's the one who responded.
Yes. So then it's under the Attorney General's chambers. From a political perspective, the Attorney General is appointed by the President.
Yeah.
In this case, the outgoing President. But we also know the direction of the outgoing government and cabinet. So you have another challenge there. The other ground that is being raised in the petition is the criminality. Election malpractices or electoral offenses. So there are lots of those, such as staging, in which we have how many Venezuelan citizens who had come in with gadgets, and seemingly there is cogent evidence to show that whatever gadgets they had, those gadgets had access to the IEBC portal. And their role was, that's why for the last 3 days, which also is another ground for the petition of the discrepancy in the results given that are not verifiable, where at some point the IEBC chairperson said we had a voter turnout of about 54 or something %, and then the following day he came in and said, I think 64 or 65.50%. So now that staging bit and the evidence that the director's equivalent of director CID in Kenya has is information that already the petitioners have to qualify for whatever prayers. But some of the prayers being made by Raila and Martha Karua, I don't see the Supreme Court granting them. For instance, the first prayer is to have Raila declared president or elected president after the Supreme Court carrying out an audit. I find that very hard for the Supreme Court to usurp that power. Whereas they can audit and whatever finding they can make and throw it back to the Electoral Commission to declare. Though again, another prayer in that petition, they don't want any subsequent work done after the petition by Chebukati. So that means it's going to cause another constitutional crisis because Uhuru as president has no powers to appoint at the moment. So then the question is, who is going to declare, who is going to handle, should the Supreme Court throw it back to the Electoral Commission or should the Supreme Court throw it back to the voters? So that's some of the things
I think under the presidential regulations for presidential petitions, the Supreme Court can declare somebody duly elected after the audit.
Yes, it can, especially where there are 2 candidates only. We've had, I think...
it doesn't specify the number of candidates. Now I'm talking about the Kenya.
Yes.
The court can declare one duly elected.
No,
In the guidelines.
Now, I think that's one of the things that the Supreme Court will find itself fixed about because you're challenging the entire voting and transmission process of the votes. Now, you like it or not, you're going to find fault in lots of these results as transmitted from the polling stations through the forms 34As up to 34C, because there is a big discrepancy between the 34C and the 34A forms. So, court, even when you find that Raila seemingly should have had a bigger edge from what you've tallied, do you go ahead to declare when there is a faulted process here? So it's easy or more comfortable, prudent for you to throw it back for another election. So the Supreme Court is tied. I don't see it. I'm foreseeing fresh, not even a rerun, fresh nominations being conducted, or the elections being limited, re-elections being limited to the 4.
Interesting.
If I may say something, in addition to what he's sharing, among the prayers also is a demand for opening up of the servers.
Yes.
The servers have original forms uploaded by returning officers before they were tampered with. If those servers are opened and you get the original uploaded forms, and they are the ones you quantify, you can come up with you can determine what the will of the people is. Because even if you hack into a system, the servers were protected to the extent that you cannot delete original information. You can only tamper with it. And that's why the hacking, they got the images that were uploaded, tampered with them, and then re-uploaded them as PDF forms. But they did not delete the images. So one can use the images to quantify the will of the people.
But on whether the Supreme Court will declare whoever's...
If it's clear, they can, because they have the powers to.
Honourable,
Yes.
What are your thoughts?
Well, the Kenyan election, I think it's a good lesson for the region. You see, the mess is good because for me, it is strengthening their democratization process. If you look at where Kenya has gone in terms of servers and all those technicalities, Uganda is just at 0.
Yeah.
Or at negative. And for me, being an East African community member, it is one of the best cases in future, if we are federated, to actually borrow those best practices into the community. this election was very tricky from the beginning. And if you look at alliances in Kenya, you cannot predict who can ally with who. So then, just trace Raila from being in opposition, going to Kano, getting away people from Kano, destroying Kano, starting anew, Then the Kano disappears, Uhuru generates Jubilee. Now look at how they came around and now they're working together. And then how Uhuru runs away from Raila who was too close to him because of ICC. Then they become, two strong individuals in the political process. And as we talk now, everybody's talking of the next election. I am a bit closer to both of them because I remember when I was president of Uganda Young Democrats, we trained the Chibaki team here. And Uhuru was the one who came with them. Because for us, we were trained by the Tony Blair campaign team. So I was surprised that they would go and implement what we taught them of what the British did. And then what we were planning to do here in Uganda, but they have implemented them in Kenya. But for us here, we are at a mark time.
What is that?
No, training, election, training leaders at the local level and all these, how do you identify new leaders, how do you make them serious, on issues, what are those issues? Now in Uganda, we have gone out of that. We are not on issues. Campaigns are for a different goal. So the current situation in Kenya as far as the court process is concerned is one of the best distilled process that Kenyans will walk home and say, okay, this is the position. Because the judiciary is very independent. You have seen how the BBIs were thrown out, which was actually, even Raila and Uhuru never expected the BBI agenda to be thrown out by the court. So for this one, no one knows which direction the court will take. Nobody. But of course, you can now see from emerging, two of the election officers are dead. You don't know why they are dead. The servers, as Council Sarah said, this morning, one of the IT experts who worked on those servers came out with the position statement. Actually, his findings before court this afternoon is that the servers were heavily interfered, not even 54 times.
The servers?
Yes. And they struggled even to the extent of deleting,
Did they delete?
They went to deleting Form 34A.
Did they manage?
That is what he said. But then, because of programming, he has ability to reproduce those deleted forms.
Yeah.
Because those guys...
It keeps the data.
Yes. Those guys were given access, codes and everything, and they were in a play in the IBC by those guys. So they would enter in like rats in the granary and then play around with everything inside the granary because they were given all the codes. But at the end of the day, they literally didn't know that however much they did what they wanted, because the issues are that it looks like both of them were not even qualifying for 50% and won.
Yes.
And the whole thing was about the rerun. It was the biggest fear of all things. So can you stretch enough so that you get just one. And you get out of it? That is why all these are the way they are. And the way it is, as you said, the four walked out with a lot of evidence, and they have not actually come with all. It was really like a planted thing. Even inside the room where Chavukate was doing things alone, he didn't know there were cameras on him. These little tiny things, they were planted. And of course, this is now government of Kenya doing it, which he didn't know. So they have a recording of how he was doing his thing when the commissioners were denied access into that room. There's a whole footage of the man himself doing his thing. And that is why the course of action is the commissioners are saying, let us find out what he was doing there that we did not see. And the results are there. that they are going to lay before court. But they were guarding it on their chest because they were fearing that the other members are also part of the state. They would easily get the person dead or destroy the whole thing. So right now where we are, I think it is good for us. It is one of the most difficult times for Kenyans, but it is the best lesson for Uganda in the future.
Sure.
It's very good. Because at the end of the day, we are the greatest beneficiary. Kenyans have never gone to the bushes to fight for elections. They have never. Kenyans have remained in the arena of court to improve the system. And they have stuck there. But for us, you see our history of election. And it's violence. The Kenyan violence, when it came, but they all resorted to court. And we are, I think, very proud that the end result of the pronouncement will either be a rerun, because the budget is there. The budget for rerun is there. Because Parliament appropriated, in the event that there's a rerun, the money is there. But we are also seeing that the position may be, as you said, that one may be declared a winner if the IT auditors comes with very clear
Evidence of
the Form 34A, because that is now what they are depending on. All these others which came in, they have all been disbanded. So if 34A comes very clear, then it is. And I'm reading in between the lines, the confidence, the speech Martha and Raila made in Mombasa. If you follow the speech, it looks like they have a very concrete evidence on the original 34A in the servers. So their body language and the confidence they have demonstrated in Mombasa in this other election, which was stalled, tells you that their body language is saying, you must prepare for swearing in. And now I said, now from what are these guys generating their motivation from? So there's something. And the other team are quiet and so scared. So why is it that Ruto's team, some have been shot, others have disappeared?
In Ruto's team?
Yes.
Who has been shot?
They are there. They have not declared.
What?
Yeah. There are some people who have disappeared. So this is a very, because Ruto is my brother-in-law. You know, my wife is a cousin sisters, one family. And there are certain things we get, which is care, which I cannot share here. And so it is very, very, we are still at a very, very bad state, you know, where tribalism needs to be guarded very seriously, because whichever direction is going to go after the court decides, and the government of Kenya should be very, very careful and ready with its security apparatus to handle the consequences, finally. But for me, I'm very excited with the lessons we have learned. The IBC has been driven to a corner where they will have to, in future, to be the best for any election in Africa.
Yeah, because okay, that's why I want us to end from is on whether really the Kenyans, picking from what is coming out from this conversation, whether the Kenyans as people will actually accept the outcomes of court, and probably with the scares of the violent ending, just in case anything happened, because already people are pronouncing and have pronounced themselves the presidents already, like the Ruto's camp is already up in celebration. In case there's that decision that court says, like we said there, that it could easily make a pronouncement and give Azimio, are Kenyans at the point where they say, no, we're okay with the decision? Do we see that level of democracy in the people? While we know that the arms are really doing their work, but the people. For me, that's where the debate now will go.
I think Kenya has tested the pain effects of an election violence. The Kenyan election violence is distinct from the Ugandan one, the one of 1980. 1980 is just a few people who, with intent, went to the bush. It was not a Ugandan thing. The Kenyan violence, the entire communities went up against each other. Now, because they have tested the effect and pains of an election violence, I don't see them going that way, even when a candidate not of their preference is declared. I can infer from the declaration of Ruto, when Ruto was declared president-elect, the strongholds of Azimio, especially Luo land, were very calm. Of course, there were some heated pressures of burning shares here and there, but generally it wasn't, they were not calmed down by security. They simply did their burning and then slowly they fizzled out. So even when there is an outcome contrary, I don't think Kenyans will go that direction. And like Honourable stated, their judicial system is very intact and the public trusts it. It has been tested severally previously. So do Kenyans want to move on past the election? I think most of them have moved on. All they are waiting for is, are they telling us to go back to vote, or are they giving us a president so we deal with that person? So whether they will go back to the violence, they're past that stage.
Okay.
Otherwise, it should have been the night when Ruto was declared. Because I think not just Kenyans, even us and the world over, reacted with a lot of pain, anger when someone else was declared as president. So
There was
You're already showing you.
no, us.
there was a lot of emotional,
not me, but us
at the
even
local
in
levels.
Uganda. In Uganda, people went quiet.
and I feel so this has, because we are ending. And
No,
we want to-
the Kenyan government has tried, and the Kenyan people have tried to build their democracy. Democracy can only be protected by two things: civic competence of the citizens and the robustness of the governance institutions. They have both. As to whether Kenyans can go back to violence, the scale of 2007 post-election violence, I can confidently say no in any forum, at any day, at any time. They had never experienced violence of that nature. They went through their baptism of fire. They don't have a violent culture like Uganda. And the violent culture in Uganda is propagated by state institutions, not the people. They don't have that. They have a professional army. They have a professional police. It's the people that went out of their way, and I don't think they can again. I don't think so. They have belief in their judiciary, and I think they will take the outcome of courts as the genuine outcome.
Thank you very much, Sarah. And I hope the Kenyans out there who are listening to this conversation, following this conversation, can just keep at that and allow the courts to make the decision and keep calm and work with whoever will be declared at that point. So, and to finalize, I just want us to have just a few texts on your thoughts and on the legacy of the late General Eli Tumwine RO00023 of the NRA, and probably his legacy, but also what it tells for how the public received the news of his death. What does it tell of the Uganda today? Maybe I would start with Sarah and we conclude with Lyandro.
I think General Tumwine has made his contribution at several fronts. One is at a professional level as an artist, he has been engaging. One can judge whether he engaged negatively or positively, depending on where they were standing from. But as a person, he made his contribution in that field. As a soldier, he has been active. played several leadership roles, including being the first army commander of NRA before it was integrated into UPDF, and at one time chaired the Army Court Martial, and then as the longest serving Army Member of Parliament. He has also raised storm in several spaces, and they may be taking General Kahindo Tafire's philosophy. It is only a stationary vehicle that does not raise dust. So he has he has raised his fair share of dust as an individual, and I think we all do in the spaces where we are. But most importantly, he seemed to have passion for whatever he was doing, and he believed he was working in the best interest of Ugandans. At a personal level, I interacted with General Tumwine as a friend. I was one of his young friends. He has family links, and he was a good parent to one of my children, who got confirmed recently, meaning that his major role of good parenting in Christian principles had just ended, I think, a month ago. But a good parent, other than the Christian role of making sure the child you are taking oath on behalf of later takes oath, when their time comes, then there's still the other more obligations that you can do. But he successfully fulfilled that duty till last month. When you look at the memories with his family, I interacted with his family at a few occasions. He seemed like a loving parent, seemed like a loving husband, had so many children he was fathering, not biologically. So he has also made his contribution in that line. May he go well, and may the Almighty judge his soul with mercy.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Denis?
As Ugandans, we've lost a gallant soldier, and specifically to the UPDF, they have lost a pillar, a tower of knowledge in that institution, because from the NRA, they transformed it into the UPDF. For his achievements, we celebrate, and we shall always celebrate him. For some of his weaknesses, especially when they had just taken power, when they were trying to pacify us in the north, we forgive him, because that's the same path we shall take. To the family, we sympathize and condole with them, and we pray that God strengthens them through this trying moment. It's very hard to accept a loss, and to lose a relative, and more so a parent at that. It's not an easy experience. So as an individual, my sympathies go out to the family, the children, the UPDF and Uganda.
Yeah, thank you very much, Denis. And finally, Honourable.
Yeah, I think on behalf of my family, we really condole with the General. General was a soft-spoken soldier. I think my first interaction with him was in Makerere University, when we used to make hard statements those days. And the General confronted me with the General Kaiura, that what do you want? That was the question I still remember. What do you exactly want? So I said, I want good governance, good country with everybody transparent and doing their work. That's all. He said, but you're so young. I said, yes, but it doesn't make it difficult to do what I'm requesting. I don't need anything. So for me, he was someone who was so dedicated to his profession, you know, and he doubled the profession, which is very unique. General was a very good artist. Then he even did postgraduate in education. became a teacher, teacher of art. Which in Uganda, it is a very funny thing. For those who teach art in Uganda, some people don't take them serious. They think, you just a fine art teacher, But I think he demonstrated that. And one thing that Ugandans will never forget from him is that ambush they put in Bukomero during the struggle, when they waylaid the UNLA soldiers who were driving a Tanzanian truck, and they shot the truck down, and they also injured him, and which he lived with the injury for very long. And to those who didn't know him, I remember in Parliament some new members were asking, why is General always putting on glasses even when we are inside the house, and yet it is dark glasses. I said, no, this was because of the injury he got during the bush struggle. Yeah, that's why he put on throughout his life. So he sacrificed for the country. He gave many responsibilities. I remember when he actually initiated the awards in the UPDF, which formerly was taken by the Army Command, and now you see awards are being given. Then it went to citizens. So he originated the concept, which we shall live to remember. And of course, of recent, I think the last time I met him two months ago. We all met at Total petrol station opposite Uganda House. When I saw a Land Cruiser coming with a lot of escorts, around 3 or 4 cars, army men with the red tops, and people were being chased away from the pump. And I just packed to get some pressure. And people were being, So I was wondering, who is this who's chasing away everybody from the petrol station? Then he walked out. So he saw me I refused to move away from where the escort went to remove me. I said, no, I cannot go away. Why should I? Do you look at me as armed or dangerous? The guy said, no, but you have to go away. I said, I'm not going. Instead, I'm going to see boss. So the escort was so surprised that instead of me walking away, I decided to start walking towards General. But of course, he just noted me and said, hey, Honourable, you are here. So that's when the guard stopped, because he was following me. So we started chatting. We were talking real politics. And we walked away and stood very far from where everybody was. And he said, what are your views on what is happening? I think that was the time we had birthdays of people in Uganda. So there was a lot of this birthday thing. Yeah, there was a lot of birthday
in the different places.
Yeah, in different places. Yeah. So I said, well, I reserve my comments, General. My birthday is also coming in August, this 29th. So I said, I'll wait for mine. And then he said, okay, the advice I give you is just observe. Then he said, I repeat again, observe. I repeat again, observe. So he kept there. That was the last message he left me with. And he said, we'll meet again. Let me give you my private number. If you need us to talk for the future, call me on this number. So that's the number I've kept to today. So we remain friends in Parliament, because I went and actually helped him over a serious issue with the Speaker of Parliament, when they had a very big fight with the Speaker. He disagreed with so many things, and he even ridiculed the Speaker, which I thought was not good. And that is when I waited for him in the lobby, and then we talked. We sat down and talked. Then I said, I think if I had met you before, I would have not even said what I said. I said, yeah, it is not good. You are a general. It's not a simple rank. When you talk, the whole country looks at you. I also remember when he had misunderstanding with the former speaker also, who was then a member of Parliament, Jacob. When he questioned Honourable Jacob then, why do you carry arms? Jacob he had acquired his hammer, but I think he put it in his car on that day. Those days they would enter with even arms inside Parliament,
In the chambers.
but not inside there,
Yeah.
but in the offices. So someone tipped him that it looks like Honourable Jacob acquired some firearms. It's still new, I think. So you must check him out.
Was he carrying it around like a favorite toy? Or?
No, he was just suspecting, because the way Jacob was dressed, he suspected that the thing should either be in his jacket or either in his waist or down. So he met Jacob on the corridor and just grabbed him and started searching him. So they opened up into a brawl, which was almost a fight, each one, getting out to blows and missing each other. And so at the end of the day, Honourable Zakarulum, I think, just sloping down from lunch, found these people almost at a very bad point. That's when he intervened and cooled them. And from that time, Zakari and General Salim Saleh put them down and talked with them. And it was so surprising, these two people who were swearing to fight whenever they would meet again became the best friends. So every Sunday in the evening they would have fellowship with Honourable Jacob, either at his place or at Jacob's place, throughout. It was very amazing, that heart of reconciliation which he had, which I think was good if he would promote it to all Ugandans, because I remember he gave warnings to people: if they are not careful, police will deal with them. And I think he did not get the opportunity to have another time to say, well, what I said was in the heat of the moment. You forgive me. So he's a general that you could approach very easily. But if you did not know him, you'd fear him. But it was easy. And I remember his trademark was African wear. I never saw him putting on shorts. And then only military uniform and African wear throughout.
His own designs.
Yeah, and his own designs. So he was a good role model.
Yeah,
And may his soul rest in eternal peace.
thank you very much, Honourable. That was an extensive one, having had an opportunity to work with him so closely in Parliament. And also to our viewers out there, and from here as Civic Space TV, we also condole with the family and the UPDF at large. May the soul of the general rest in peace. And thank you very much for being our ardent followers of this conversation. Until we meet next Friday, may God bless Uganda.